Welcome. Ziggy1X here with another NieR reincarnation video. And we're going to dive in a little bit more into the specifics of memoirs, but we're also going to hybrid it up a little bit and dive into the arena as well. I'm going to be using an arena team here that's kind of become a favorite of mine for attacking. Now you'll notice first of all the force on my arena team, it's just shy of 300,000. And the biggest reason for that is because I'm using 2 EX weapons. Let's go ahead and dive in here for the beginning with Yuri. Now you notice I have Yuri using an off affinity weapon. I'm using Akeha's EX sword, which is a great sword, so she's not going to be doing multiple auto attacks with it, but I've also got her tuned into being very slow. She's not very fast, but you'll notice 3 very important, actually 4 really important things outside of that. First of all, I do have Yuri's debris, so I'm going to go ahead and claim whale privileges on this because I did whale out on the celebratory banner with Yuri on it. But this is useful for this kind of gameplay because it reduces the cooldown of skills when you have a main hand fire affinity weapon equipped. This sword is a main hand fire affinity. Yuri also benefits, celebratory Yuri also benefits from the blaze drive, which means that increases the attack of equipped fire affinity weapons by 100%. So she's going to be getting a bonus to attack, not HP and defense, but just attack by 100% if she's using fire affinity weapons. Okay, so she is a fire specialist. We've always known this since we got her, and she fits beautifully into this. The only character that I would say is better for this role than Yuri is going to be the Snow White Akeha that is currently up on the Sinnoh Alice banner. So if I was to have an awakened Akeha, an awakened Snow White Akeha, I would slot her in favor of Yuri, except for one thing. And this is the part that kind of originally was a little bit of a, I don't need to chase this unit for me personally, because I already have Yuri. And that is because I'm using celebratory Akeha. We can't have 2 costumes in the same team. So let's set that aside for just a minute here. Now, let's look at the memoirs. Let's look at the stats and let's look at the memoirs then. You'll notice that I do have the Blighted Flowers set, which is going to increase the decrease the cooldown by 30% at the start of battle. Okay, so that means that her skills are going to be charging up much faster. What that results in, by the way, and if you just look at the regular cooldown of this weapon, this is the first ability. It goes off 23 seconds. Okay, that's a long wait time on an ability, especially in arena, and then 23 seconds. Now, the way the AI has it timed is that the first ability goes off, which increases the fire damage, and then the second ability goes off, which is an AoE fire nuke. It's a very powerful attack. Now, remember, 23 seconds. Let's go over here to Akeha real quickly. She's using the subjugation weapon here, the greatsword. Now, I've got it built out to have a cooldown at 14 seconds and 17 seconds. Now, what I notice in my own arena testing, because Yuri has her debris and because she's getting maximum cooldown from the secondary abilities, this haste ability, skill cooldown by 10%. So she's getting 30% at the start of battle from the debris, and she's getting another 30% from her weapons, and then she's getting 5% from the debris. So that's a lot of cooldown. Akeha is getting only one of those. She's getting it from this guy right here, which is the haste ability you see right there. She's also getting a little bit of crit rate up, and she's getting the 30% from the memoir set. What this results in the battle is that Akeha, her abilities are ready to fire off about a second. It's not even a second before Yuri's abilities are ready to fire off. They're right about synced in. And so how do I get these wonderful, I get this wonderful cooldown, but I also, with Yuri, because she's my nuke, 30,000 attack, 102% crit rate, and 207% crit damage. This is really good. This is something that I've been working really hard to get from my dungeons and from my Aberrant Memory dungeon in particular, because I've been farming this set. Now let's look at the set real quickly. Now there's some things you need to know about memoir sets, especially when you're trying to build a set. There's only one memoir, and it's a shared memoir that will give you either crit rate or crit damage. So when you're building a full set, when you need to benefit from the abilities of that set, you need to take that into account. In this case, it's Geranium for this specific set. Every set will have its own only can be crit rate or crit damage. This is this one for this. So you'll notice here I've got very high crit damage, crit rate, HP. I've got a flat attack, which is undesirable, but it's got so much crit damage that it's worth it. It's a easy trade-off for me to get that. And then we'll go over here. Now, I actually usually build my teams for agility in the arena. I'm actually not building this character for agility. She doesn't need the agility. She doesn't need to fire off first. Griff is going to be there to take the first couple hits, and then she's going to do that slow burn, charge up. Akeha is going to boost the fire damage, and then she's going to fire off and nuke the whole team. Doesn't always work, but more often than not, it does work. So I win more than I lose. But you'll notice here that instead of agility, I'm putting the attack up plus 20%, crit rate plus 14%, crit damage. This is a good memoir, okay? This is a very good memoir. And then this last one, which is normally depending on what kind of character you're building, either HP, defense, attack, whatever, this is where that third wheel goes. So this one, obviously, I can't have another crit rate, I can't have another crit damage, and I can't have another agility memoir in this slot. So this slot is going to be reserved specifically for attack, defense, or HP. And that's going to be your third slot. So remember, one slot is either going to be your crit rate or your crit damage memoir. The second slot is either going to be your agility or attack, defense, or HP. And then the third one, attack, defense, or HP. Okay? This one, very good. Also crit rate, high crit damage, attack, defense. This is a great memoir. So that's the reason why, also because I've got two sub-weapons, and this is where the EX weapons prove to be so useful, because especially in arena, because they have the haste, which is increasing the speed of your cooldowns, and the ambush. And on a fully ascended, awakened everything EX weapon, the crit rate is up by 20%. That is humongous, and I've got two of them on her. You can see it right there, ambush haste, ambush haste. Great sub-weapons. So this is EX Lars, EX Marie, and then over here on Akeha, I've got EX Theo. So if you're building specifically, if you're looking specifically to get weapons, these are three of the best. Oh, I got another floaty hair in my face again. These are three of the best weapons you can use, not to mention that EX Theo's light fists are still arguably the best light weapon in the game. So that's something to look forward to. And EX Lars, as I showed you in my last video, it does a lot of damage. And so even if it's not a primary affinity for the character you're using, it's still a great weapon to use in your main hand. I use it on Yuri all the time because she's a fire specialist. It's a high damage weapon. Easy. Okay, so that's the formula from the memoirs. Crit rate, crit damage on one, agility or the three main stats on the other, and then the three main stats on the other. Build accordingly. Again, you're going to be wanting to build as close to possible as you can towards that 100% crit rate, and then building up depending on what kind of character you're using. Most of the time when you're building crit rate, you're building an attacker, so you're going to be wanting to build up the attack and the crit damage. I usually lean in favor of the crit damage, but everything does scale off the attack, so don't completely discount the attack. Okay, moving on. Let's take a look at Griff here. Now Griff, I got him, this may not be optimized. There's probably a lot of people who are way more capable at this than I am, but this is just personally the way I have it set up. I have him using all HP, okay? And then I've got the HP plus 25% set on his memoirs. Now this was one that we got from one of the kind of the side farming deals, like what we got right now with Seno Alice, where you can pick up additional memoirs, and that allows you to more evenly flush out the set, which is really cool. So again, HP, and HP. Now I don't have him with ideal weapons right now. I built him with a little bit higher agility so that he could get a couple attacks in. I was just experimenting with this mostly. Usually I have him with a zombie staff, something like this guy over here. Let's go ahead and turn this off, and let's go right over to, oh, why doesn't it pop up? What am I doing wrong? What did I do wrong? Okay, whatever. Oh, that's what I did wrong. I need an editor. Anyways, this guy right here. So this has recovery. That's your zombie ability. When HP, recover 10% HP when your HP falls below 70%, one time only. So you equip this on him. He basically gets an extra life out of it. It's pretty cool. It's a nice little ability. I'm going to throw that back on him now for kicks and giggles. So your memoir sets, again, it's depending on the situation. When you're in the regular game and you're not doing the PvP side of things, you're not as limited as you normally would be. Again, I want this memoir set because it increases that cooldown by 30% or decreases. I always do that. It speeds up the cooldown by 30% at the beginning of battle, which means your abilities fire off faster. In this certain circumstance, that's very, very useful. That's essential, actually, if you're going to compete. But if we go over here to our regular quests, you'll notice that I've got a bunch of broken sets on. There's not a cohesive set on here. Crit damage, crit rate, crit damage. Okay, and just because of the way Yuri's built, that's actually a very powerful build. I've got her with Lara's sword, as you can see. 275% crit damage, which is very high, 99% crit rate, and 32,000 attack. So she's doing a lot of damage. And user mileage may vary depending on which sets you have. At the beginning of the game, when you're starting out, it's okay to Frankenstein the sets. You don't need to have a set, even though you do benefit from especially the crit rate by 10% or 15% and the crit damage by 40% sets. And those can be both farmed in the Witch dungeon. 110,000 force, I believe, is what that was. So if you're there, you have a good water team, you can farm those memoirs and you could eventually build them out. Those are great memoirs to go for, especially in the early game, and not so bad for outside of the early game as well, because they give you a little bit of extra options. Now, I have never really focused on those because I find it more profitable for the most part just to get a really good memoir with really good substats and then just lump those in together, and you can see the stats speak for themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and make this one a little bit more brief. This was kind of a little bit of a hybrid video. And for just a last little taste, just to show you what I was talking about with that one team, and I'm going to actually dive into this, I think, a little bit more in a second video. Let's look at the force on these guys real quickly. Whew, Yuta. My goodness, that's a lot of force. So let's take a look at this one real quickly here. I think this is going to be an all EX weapon team. I think it has to be, because 360,000 force is really, really high. Now this one right here looks like it also has some EX weapons. This is my bunker buster team, but I have to do it on manual. So we've got 367,000 force. This is probably going to be an all EX team, which means if I don't kill them quickly, I'm totally dead. So let's see what happens here. I'm probably going to want to put up fire resistance because I'm guessing I'm going to be nuked by fire, and hopefully I survive. Let's see what happens. All right. Yeah, warm up the old fingers. All right, let's do this. All right, here we go. Okie dokie. Yep, this is a straight up, basically the same team that I got, but kind of the opposite. So I'm going to wait to fire off Akaha's ability until her weapon abilities charge, because I don't want to interrupt the cooldown of my weapon abilities. All right, boom, 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 boom. I want to be finishing with Yuri, because Yuri, and you notice their abilities are not charging, or their abilities haven't charged yet, but mine, since I fired mine off first, I get to go first. Now this fight is in the bag. This is an easy fight. Watch what Yuri does here. Boom, and then watch this. Boom. Okay, Demios is left, but who cares? Demios on his own can't do anything. So we're just going to polish him off here real quickly. Well, okay. That's what I get for discounting Demios. Boop. All right, not a very dramatic finish, but finish with companion. Pretty clean fight regardless. 360,000 force. So that looks very intimidating, but just by seeing how much force they had, you can kind of gauge what kind of team you're going to be going up against. And you can gauge what kind of attacking team you're going to be using. Again, I want to go into this in another video and play around with it a little bit. It may be a little bit of a longer form video than I usually do, because I'll be actually in the midst of playing. And it'll be a very different tone from my Arena Nightmares video, which is just me going off on the game. But otherwise, I hope this was an informative video for the memoirs side of things, and just showing how much of a difference it makes to get a good memoir set in your competitive gameplay, in your PvE gameplay. You don't need the sets for the PvE, but you really do need the sets for the PvP. And otherwise, it's a lot of work to get good memoirs. So wait for those 1/2 energies and those 2.5x, 3x, whatever it is, drop rates, and you will thank me later. It's a way to do it. This is, again, content more geared towards newer users, so I hope you find this useful. And maybe if you're not a newer user, maybe you still learn something. Great. That's all the better. I hope to appeal to as wide an audience as possible. So like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks.